So yesterday I happened to read the latest version of this book that I keep talking about. Um, it wasn't planned. I was just closing down like tabs, and the latest version. So basically, as I said, written loads of different versions, and the latest one was a different angle. So I had sent some of it to a copywriter to look over and just to give their feedback, and another writer, and they kind of said either go in this direction or this direction. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do that. I started to focus on one way and writing it in a way that I have never written it before. And as I was reading through it, I was like, you know what? This is actually really good. Like, I was reading it like it was a book that I had just picked up and I was really enjoying it. So, with that being said, I spent quite a few hours, I'd say, finishing off like the last bit. So, like one of the last chapters, not the last chapter, but finishing off a chapter. So there's a good few thousand words done, and there's quite a lot of thousands to go. But I actually think I want to publish the book. So, with that being said, I'm going to record these podcast videos bi-weekly now, just because I don't want to give too much away from the book, even though I haven't, what I've spoken about so far has been isolated to a version of the book that was written in my earlier 30s. So I haven't actually taken anything bar one thing from this book, but I'm gonna kind of peel back and look at other things, still in relation to what has happened to me. It's all still going to be very much real lived experiences, but taken from a different reference point. So today I was thinking about, what am I going to talk about today? I wasn't sure. I've been in a really interesting place mentally. Not a bad mental space, not a great mental space, just a space that I haven't been able to work out up until recently. And I finally figured out what I was feeling. So I have attended like a women's conference at my church recently, and Dr. Anita Phillips was the main speaker. And the whole conference was called Ignite Her, and it really kind of set a fire in me. But from that, I kind of had to sit with my feelings because, I definitely think I'm one of those people that we are all emotional beings, and I am an emotional person, but I don't show my emotions in the way that people genuinely show emotion. So I'm not the type of person to sit there and cry on the phone to you or need you to hold me, and I'm not that person. That doesn't mean I'm not emotional. That doesn't mean that I don't have my moments where I absolutely break down. But I like to do that in the comfort of my own space and by myself. But I also tend not to feel my emotions. And when I start to feel a certain way, I almost feel guilty feeling that way, because I feel like I'm so blessed and I have like the most amazing family. I'm very rich in love. I have great friends. I have a beautiful roof over my head. I have a job. I get to do the things that I want to do. So when I'm feeling how I've been feeling recently, which I discovered was dissatisfied, I felt guilty in feeling that. But I had to acknowledge that this is what I was feeling, and I had to figure out why I was feeling that way. And the conference definitely was the foundation for me discovering what I was feeling inside. And then life continues and you're back to day to day. And I was having a conversation with one of my friends recently who's going through a really hard time, but we were just talking about life, and she asked me, what do you want to do? Basically, it was more, we were talking about my current work, and I was telling her, what it's like, and it's not great. And she was like, would you look for something in the same field or not? I said, no, I think I would come out of that field, still do it consultancy, but come out of the field working 9 to 5. She said, what do you want to do? When she asked me that question, I was like, my response was, oh, I don't know. But I'm really glad she asked me that question, because from that, I then started to really think about it, and I realized I know what I want to do. I want to write. I just want to write. I want to be a writer. I want to travel, and I want to write. So from that conversation, I kind of came up with, okay, how am I going to just get this started? And I figured that out. Great. That does not mean that feeling of dissatisfaction has disappeared. It just means that I'm now beginning to work on getting rid of that, because I had to figure out why I'm dissatisfied. And I realized that a lot of my life has been focused on a relationship and work. And that has been it. And my relationship, I was always in a relationship, whether it was great or not, it was always very consuming. And work has always been very important to me. I have a great work ethic and I enjoy working. I enjoy being busy, and it has always been booming, both. And I realized that the reason why I'm feeling dissatisfied is because these two things that used to consume my life so much are no longer there. Obviously, I'm still working, but not the way I used to work. And I don't have a relationship now. My relationship with God has taken over that, and that has been honestly the best. But I can't ignore the fact that I'm so used to thinking about someone else's feelings, giving all of myself to someone. And although I feel like I took the time to give all of that to God, it's not the same, because God doesn't require me to tick these boxes to love me. Like he loved me regardless. So I never feel like I'm like fighting for his attention, or I need to do this to make him happy. Like, of course I want to live my life to make God happy, but it's just different. It's a different type of pressure, and it doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like love, which I haven't experienced before on this level. So I've had to take myself out and be like, right, okay, what can I do? What is within my control to feel satisfied? Now, this is kind of taking a turn, because what I wanted to talk about today, and I guess it still ties in, is like PTSD. And we have all experienced it. I would not like to say it, hopefully we haven't all experienced it, but I think everyone has experienced PTSD to some degree. It could be like horrific, or it could be, quite just easy. But we all have something that has happened, and something will trigger it, and you react the way you act, good or bad. And I think the line of questioning, the conference, the feeling has again led me to this point where I'm like, why am I so fixated on working a certain way, or feeling like I'm successful, or that I'm doing something by working a certain way? So why is it that I feel like I have to work a certain way for things to actually be working, or for me to be satisfied? Just being busy and actually not really doing much, but feeling busy feels like you're moving in the right direction. And for a while now, I've been like, I just need to take the leap. I know what I want to do. I'm doing it, but I know that I want to give my all to what I want to do, to what I'm doing. And the leap would be the leap of faith, and say, you know what? I'm going to just pour everything into this and leave my current situation and just do it. And so many people, younger, older, no matter who you are, there's so many people in this world that has just like gone for what they want and taken the risk. And I realized that I'm not actually a risk taker. In my mind I am. Like when I daydream and think, I like, oh, life would be like this if, and I have these vivid daydreams, and it's beautiful, these visions. But to actually bite the bullet and say, right, I'm just going to do this, I'm just going to bet on myself and do this, I haven't been able to do. And I remember, or I think a big part of that is when I did decide to do that, I was burnt. So I was working in retail management for many, 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 many years. And I was at Topshop in Stratford working as a sales manager when I got to a point where I was like, okay, I need to like do something more or whatever. So I went to my line manager and I was like, I need more than this. And he was like, yep, you do. You need to do a lot more. So he gave me, I guess, or spoke to area managers and said, Marina needs more. She's great. I want her to do more. And I went and then took over a store and got that store back to a level where it needed to be. And once I got it back to where it needed to be, a friend of mine at the time, who's someone who I'd worked with in the past on fashion shows, on, everything to do with fashion. He did events. And he was like, I'm taking this company like forward. I've got an investor. I'd love you to come on board. So I was like, okay. And at this point, it was just going to be him, me, and then we would build a team. And obviously the investor was kind of he wasn't going to be a silent investor, so he was going to be there. So I met with him and the investor, and they were telling me all these amazing things that they want to do with this company and this media company, and it sounded fantastic. And I already knew what could be done based on what we had put on in the past, the connections that my friend had. Like, I knew it could be great. But we met like in Victoria in like a little pub, and it was like, come on board, we'll give you this salary, which was more than what I was on, and Bob's your uncle. So I was like, okay. I was like, all right, send me a contract through. Once I get a contract, then I'll hand in my notice. Contracts like taking a while, blah, 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 blah. But they gave me a start date. So I'm like, okay, I need to hand in my notice. But I was very cautious. I was like, I need to make sure I have something in writing before I hand in my notice, and like, I don't have a job. And I was waiting, but the start date was getting closer. And I was talking to my friend, and I was like, is it happening? He was like, yeah, you're going to be starting here. I'll push so-and-so to get your contract over. I was like, okay, fine. And then it got to a point where I didn't receive my contract, but I just handed in my notice because I had to give a certain amount of time, and I didn't want to leave them like hanging dry. So I handed in my notice, and then we started. Like, I did actually start on the date that they said. We got a office. Where was it? My memory's so bad. But it was, I don't know, but it was up London somewhere. We had an office and moved in, and it was great. Started working on our first kind of event thing. I had secured some big people to perform for the event. It was like a launch party. We were talking to get images, and they were going to cover the event, and like, it felt like, this is great. And I really did take a leap, because I was like, this is a completely fresh company, right? Me, my friend who is younger than me, this guy that I've only just met once. And I would say for the first couple of months, it seemed like everything was fine. I got paid on time, and he was like, if you bring in investors or whatever, you'll get a percentage. A friend that I know, I spoke to him about it. He was like, yeah, I would potentially invest, and then I was going to get a bonus from that. So it was all like, oh, amazing. And then I got paid twice, and then Christmas happened. And that was the year my grandma died. And that was horrific for me. So in January, I was flying to Jamaica. But I was like, look, I'm flying to Jamaica, but I can work, kind of thing. I need some time off, but I will work. And he was like, no, it's fine, take some time. Got back a couple of weeks later. The investor, the guy, was kind of nowhere to be seen. He was a bit of a fraudster. Like, he was trying to live the life of, what's that film? I'll remember that film. But it's the one with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's going to bug me. But he was living the life of Leonardo DiCaprio in that film. And he was like, flying in on helicopters to get home, because he lived in Essex, and his missus it was just insane. The whole experience was a bit insane. It was like, what is going on? Like, he was heavily addicted to drugs, and it was just a bit crazy, right? But he was really nice to me. I always got paid. And then I didn't. And then I had worked a month, and I was like, am I going to get paid for this month? And my friend was like, yeah, your money will be sent. And I think he did send that money. So I got paid 3 times. And then I was like, so what's happening? And then the company had been closed down. He's like, we're still working though. And I was like, okay. So I was then working with him, but there was no payment. And I was like, nah, this can't be. And I was like, it's been like 3 months. I've left my job and for this, and now I have nothing. So this is why it's so good to make sure you do not burn bridges when you leave anywhere. Because I called up my old boss, and I was like, is there a job for me? He was like, we'll find a job for you. I was like, cool, I think I need a job. Started working back in Topshop Stratford. Back to management, like, it was fine. But I think that experience was the one time in my life that I took a risk. And I took a risk within work, which was a really big deal to me. Like, I've worked since I was 15. I've never not had a job. And when I lost my job when I was 24 or 5, I was working within the next week. Like, there was no, we're not doing this. So it was a lot. And granted, I got paid again. I started back at my old job in time for pay. So I didn't miss a payment at all. But that was the one risk I took, and I was burnt. And I'm like, when I was supposed to get paid from that place, I was like, there was no answer. My friend was not returning my calls, saying, yeah, I sent it. It's not come through. All of that jazz. And I was just like, no, he's no longer my friend, but I wish him all the best. And I know that he was going through it and it was hard for him. But communication is key. Like, if he would have just said, you know what, I just don't have it, I would have been fine. But it was, yeah, you're definitely getting paid. Do this meet here, and then nothing. And I think that's why now, and that happened, how old am I? 38. That happened a good 8 years ago. 29, 30, yeah. And now I think I forgot about that, but I realised that, you know, to say, okay, I'm just gonna, but again, I wasn't betting on myself, I was betting on someone else. I don't know, I just feel like there's certain things that have happened where I have said, okay, I'm gonna take this risk, or I'm gonna do this, and then it's failed. And I think I really need to come out of that and realise that people will do that time and time again. People actually do that time again. They leave something to try something, it doesn't work out, they try again, it doesn't work out, until it does. But I'm that person, or have been that person, where I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to try this, doesn't work out, okay, I'm just going to go back to what I know. And that comfortability, that comfort zone, is not a great place to be all the time. And I'm now trying my best to push myself out of my comfort zone. And I had a conversation with my friend the other day about pushing past my comfort zone, and I think we all should in some way. And it could be something not as big as your work life, because, you know, you're happy to be comfortable and secure, and I think security is so important. But it could be in something else, like fashion, for example. You see someone often that you think, oh God, I love the way she dresses, I could never wear that. Well, you can. It all comes down to confidence. Some of the things I wear, people have said to me, I could never pull that off. Of course you could, if you had the confidence to. If you actually loved it enough and you rocked it with confidence, you would 100% pull it off. A lot of the time, it has nothing to do with the piece of fabric, it's to do with the person in it. And there's different areas that you can push yourself past your limits and take risks and start small. And I'm starting small, but I'm ready for big. And I'm just trusting God. Like, I know that a time's gonna come very soon where I'm gonna have to make a decision on where to go, and it's gonna be a big decision. And I just have to trust God, because I can't do it on my own. I actually can't. I think that was a very mild example of PTSD, because, you know, all that has stopped me from doing is taking big risks in my work life. But that hasn't affected me, because I'm still very secure and have a job and whatever. However, it may hold me back from more, but it hasn't affected me in a negative way where it's detrimental to my life, right? But we know that PTSD in bigger scenarios can have a really big effect on your mental and just life itself, and kind of hold you down and back from your destiny and things that you deserve. A lot of the time, well, from my experience anyway, PTSD has involved someone else doing something that now, when someone else does it, I'm a bit like, oh, I don't know. Or someone doing something to me that then triggers something else. It's my PTSD has never been caused that I can think of by myself solely. No. But I think the biggest thing you can go to is relationships, or the easiest thing you can go to is relationships, not the biggest, the easiest thing you can go into is relationships. You know, most of us have experienced relationships where things have happened and you start to notice characteristic traits in people and how they behave. And then when you see that come up in someone else, you automatically are like, okay, no, you are like this person. And you kind of tarnish them with the same brush. And it could be that that's not their character, it's just a moment. But it could also be their character. But regardless, you've already tarnished them and dismissed them because, dealing with the feelings and the emotions of what had happened. I would say that the most troubling thing for me when it comes to PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, that is, I know everyone probably knows that, but just saying, just in case, it's probably been in my friendships. And I already spoke about the experiences of bullying, and the physical bullying I don't believe have much of an effect on me, or maybe it did for a certain amount of years, but after that I was completely fine. But it was more the emotional bullying that affected me that came from girls. And I notice it in how I treat my friends now, or how much of a distance there is between me and them. Not all of them. There's a couple that I'm fine to be completely myself with. I say that, but I don't know if I am. But I am, I'm fine to be, but I don't know if I actually act that out all the time. But a lot of my friends, because of how I was treated when I was really young, I just don't trust. And I'm working on it, and I feel like I have started to trust more. But even in my 30s, I've had experiences with some of my friends where I realised that, you know what? I think with my friends, it's not that they have necessarily burnt me or abused me in some way. I just think because of my experiences in the past that still linger, and I still remember very well, when I feel offended by said friend, it kind of takes me back. And I can be, if I'm in the wrong, tell me I'm in the wrong. I really respect communication and I respect honesty. But it's when you're a bit bitchy, I guess, because females can be very bitchy, as can men, but females can be very bitchy and very gossipy. And I have been obviously that person at some point in my life, and I thank God that I've grown out of that. But even in my late 30s, I still see it, I still hear it, and I'm just like, oh. And I think because of that, if I sense any type of bitchiness, spitefulness within that, then my back's up and I'm like, nah, you're not for me. Instantly, I kind of write you off in my head. And that has happened in I would say in the last 5 years, that has happened with some of my friends, where in my head I've written them off. Some of them have stayed written off, but others I realize that, Marina, you need to forgive. You need to realize that actually this is more about you than it is about them. This is more about you projecting rather than actually hearing what is being said. And I've been able to do that, but I don't know when this PTSD will ever fully go away, because I guess now I just deal with it better, right? So if something triggers me, I process it. I don't act on it. I don't, less reaction and more just, okay, why am I feeling this way? Is it actually a thing, or is it just me? Can I move on from this? If not, let me have a conversation. And just trying to be more of an adult about it. But I do think PTSD can, when it comes to things like friendships and things like that, it can make you be very immature. And, obviously it's also there to protect you and for you to have your alarm bells and say, okay, this is seeming very familiar, not in a good way, let me pull myself away. But it can also hinder you and affect developing relationships. I'm hoping that when I get into a relationship, I don't allow the things of my past relationships to affect my future. I feel like it wouldn't, because I'm totally over everything that's happened. When I say totally over, I mean it doesn't upset me. There's no anger. There's no resentment. I genuinely just feel nothing. I genuinely feel like that was a part of my life that I'm so grateful for. all my relationships. I'm so grateful for every single one of them. It's kind of like Ariana Grande's song, Thank You Next. Like, I really do thank all of my exes because they have contributed to the person I am in some of the best ways and has really revealed to me the worst of me. And I'm so glad that has happened, so that now it's like, oh, okay, I'm good now. I can process all of that. I can work through all of that. So I'm really grateful to all of my past relationships, and I don't hold any resentment or any regret. I'm very much happy with how things have moved on, and like I really hope and pray that they are all living their absolute best lives. So I don't believe I'll have any PTSD, but you never know what you're holding on to or what you're suppressing that is unconscious until a situation arises. So we'll see, because I've definitely noticed, it's funny because I spent a day with a male friend recently, the whole day, and I was just like, this is a lot. This giving my time and my ear and doing things, it was a lot. And and you know what it did help me realize, like, Marina, you need to start socializing a bit more, because you need to start getting used to, I do socialize, but I socialize for like a couple of hours at a time. This was like from morning to evening, and I felt drained. And I was like, oh my gosh, can I do this for a lifetime? I don't know. I'm sure I can. I'm sure I will. Of course I will. But yeah, this was I guess touching on PTSD, but also more about just encouraging myself and at the same time encouraging everyone else to take some risks in life and do the thing that you think you can't do or you won't be able to pull off, and just do it, and do it with confidence. And confidence is just, you just need to keep showing up until you're very confident. At least feel it, and to the point where you don't actually care what anyone has to say, because you know you look good. If we're talking fashion wise, but yeah, like, just step out of your comfort zone. And I'm telling you to do that because I'm telling myself to do that. And then as I do it, we do it together. And then I feel supported in that. But yeah, good luck.